My name is Jan Heinecke, and I'm the program coordinator for events and membership at the FSM Alliance. And I'm very happy to welcome you all today to our session, to our FSMA Spotlights session, which will present some updates from Indonesia. Why Indonesia? As some of you will know, Indonesia was the host country for the International FSM6 conference, which we organized last year in 2021. And we had selected Indonesia because it has some really innovative approaches on how to incorporate FSM and non-sewage sanitation into its urban sanitation plans. It also has some unique challenges, being an island nation that consists of more than 17,000 islands, which doesn't make sanitation service provision any easier, I can imagine. But the country took on the challenge and set itself some ambitious goals to increase service provision to its population. So the country is really on an interesting sanitation journey. For the conference, unfortunately, due to the COVID pandemic, we had to make the decision to organize the FSM6 conference as a mostly virtual conference, with all the pros and cons that come with such a decision. This decision meant that the international conference attendees were not able to come to Indonesia, which was of course very unfortunate, but our local partners in Indonesia didn't get discouraged by that. And in fact, they did manage to convene some brilliant speakers locally to put together a very, very robust Indonesia track for the conference. And these high-profile presentations formed an essential part of the online conference experience, as they covered a wide range of aspects, ranging from national policies, FSM enforcement, regulations, and financial considerations, to innovative approaches in FSM operations, sludge treatment, and reuse. We are now about 1 year after the FSM6 conference, and we thought this was a good point in time to check in again. And here's some updates about recent developments in Indonesia. And thankfully, we have some fabulous speakers with us today with years of experience in the sanitation sector to help guide us through some interesting recent developments and case studies. So taking a quick look at the agenda today. First of all, surprise, surprise, we said we would have 3 presentations today, but in fact, we are very happy that we had a last minute addition to the session today, which is Arieza Akbary. And the background story is that Indonesia will move its capital in 2024. So the capital from then on won't be Jakarta anymore. And the new capital city is actually being built more or less from scratch, which is quite fascinating, because this also means that the entire sanitation system will also be built from scratch. And we are very happy that Arieza is with us today, and he represents the companies who will actually design and implement the sanitation systems for the new capital city. I think a lot of this will be using sewers, but I heard that FSM and non-sewer solutions will also play some role in that. So we're looking forward to hear from him, and he will actually kick us off in a minute. Then we have more presentations from a joint presentation from Kevin Putra, Tiara, and Hidayat, Sigit, Suryanto, from PJL Enviro, which is a company that's been active in wastewater and sludge treatment for more than 25 years and is working with national ministries, but also with provincial and city authorities all over Indonesia. After that, we will hear from Maraita Listyasari from UNICEF Indonesia. She also spoke at FSM6. And she will tell us a bit more today how UNICEF supports safely managed sanitation in different ways, like raising public awareness, strengthening capacity, and also technology innovation. And after that, we will hear from Nyoman Suartana from SNV Indonesia. He also spoke at FSM6, and he will tell us more about SNV's activities in the city of Metro, where they are trying to improve desludging capabilities and also work towards safely managed sanitation. But now I'm happy to pass it over to Arieza to tell us more about the new Indonesian capital.
Okay, so since the new capital project actually still have lots of red tape, so I would like to present some of it, but more discussing on finding a future role for FSM in Indonesia with a bit perspective of how we plan it for the new capital, because we're considering that a lot of the practice and the policies that was made for the new capital would be adapted to the other 500 cities and regencies sometime in the future. So I think it's a good to, it would be good to have some kind of a sneak peek on how it would be in the future to start planning right now. And to start, this is the FSM and on-site sanitation system as we know it, the whole service chain, and that we already adopted the same platform, the same framework. We have more or less the same definitions of system and services, and that we actually adopted SDGs into a presidential decree, and we also put it in the midterm 5 years development plan. The latest one is until 2024, with, of course, target on safely managed sanitations, which also means FSM. And we will get back to these numbers later. But I think to open, that intro sounds a bit good. Well, it's good. We have a macro policy that already addresses FSM and then safely managed sanitation. But where are we in Indonesia right now, actually? So this is the data from the UN GMP, the Joint Monitoring Program as we know it, from 2020. But as you can see, something very important is missing from this reporting. Safely managed, the FSM, the data is not available. Some said that it was due to census data and availability. So we backtrack a bit and see where we actually is right now. The latest data that we can get is from the study in 2018. So as you can see, the I'll just annotate along the way. So the captive, outside the captive market for FSM is really big, and also improvement of this. But in 2018, only around 4% is delivered. So there is a lot of gap here. And also that sewerage services is still really limited over here. And even if in the GMP, the OD went down pretty far, and the unimproved claim pretty far also went down, and the communals had tripled basically. But there are still some issues that we're kind of flagging right now on how or where our sanitation sector and especially FSM should move from now until at least 2030. So we found that this was the treated figure that was recorded in the treatment plans, and these were the built capacity. So there is gap already, but there is also a very large gap to the whole on-site sanitation. So we identify this gap, but also a very large bottleneck on whether the on-site services and the commoners are dislodged or no. And we also have some not really quantitative data, but a lot of the supposed septic tanks were actually unlined pits in the not so safe area. So this could be interchangeable. So this number could go down and this number could go up, regardless of the current audit says that the unimproved is at 1%. So we're still facing quite big challenges, and that it has a lot of impacts that we found. If you have ever heard the dirtiest river in the world documentary, Citarum, the main pollution is domestics. The government is right now is very intense on addressing the industrial pollution, but if we see the pollution contribution load, yeah, it's still left a lot to be desired. And this also happens on a lot of largest rivers in Indonesia, in the Java Island, but also start appearing in other rivers across the 70,000 islands. And that also includes contamination in groundwater due to the unlined pits being used in very dense urban settings. So things sounds really gloomy after we make a bit view on what actually has been going all this time. But then there come the new capital project. The president and the government hype it up really big, going everywhere, asking for investment and everything. And how does all of that situation and what the new capital city development has in common, or what does it connect? So the new capital city was formally presented by the president in his address on 2019. The vision will be the future sustainable smart city, and those terms, but we have a more specific key performance indicator. There is 100% treated wastewater, which safely managed sanitation, and the ICT. Well, it's half gimmick, half actually working. But the interesting part is that the new capital have an address on net zero emissions, and it focuses on the energy sector on the fossil fuel, transportation sector also on the fossil fuel. But there is other address on the methane, which also include biogenics, so biological process also have to be accounted and has to be reduced. And this is a challenge that I'll come back after this, but we need to be more specific on the sanitation sector, what we are doing in the new capital. So we will integrate the wastewater and solid waste handling, and there is some kind of trade-off. So the sludge would be more optimum and efficient to be treated together with the solid waste line. And then the leachate from the solid waste handling will also be better if co-treated with wastewater with good mixed proportion. And that there will also be water use and also rainwater harvesting, everything, but that's the sanitation. And unfortunately, I cannot show any map or any diagram because it's still red tape. But then we need to be more specific. What's the wastewater sector? So in the treatment plant, as you can see, we are quite traumatized by what happened in Citarum and also all the rivers around Indonesia. So we are having more specific, more tight effluent standards and also emission standards. And basically we exercise the system, the city system, with a lot of technology options, some patented, some open. And that in the end, that selection of technology and treatment systems really depends on some criteria, including the patents and legal bid mechanism. Sometimes you have a very good technology that is patented and registered, but legally you cannot bid in a government project. There's also those kind of issues. And that is the exercise that has been done for the last 2 years, actually. And then, but we really need to be more specific. What about the FSM? So this part is actually the clickbait. Formally, there is no FSM or on-site sanitation plant for the new capital. But there are some role in FSM for the new capital, actually. First of all, there is an existing adjacent population, not so big, but around 10,000 households. But this area has been growing rapidly to support construction worker and also activities to support the first phase of the new capital. And there is no FSTP close enough to the area, around 200 kilometers or so. So we really need to address this area and its population increase, not to pollute the nearby river that will be used for the new capital water sources. And this is where the FSM will at least have a role in the new capital as an intermediary system to serve the existing population and also the construction worker housing, and also for there will be some pockets that hydraulically cannot be served by sewerage. They will have some kind of localized smaller STP, but the sludge will not be handled on their own. So it will still be dislodged and brought to the treatment plant. And co-treatment, as I recall a few years back, is also rising as a trend, I think in India and also some countries. And it is a good approach to handle the gap in availability of fixed charge treatment plant, and that to address that, it's usually more popular to build the centralized system, but then there is still room for FSM. Okay, so after that, I would say clickbait information. So what does it tell about the future of FSM in Indonesia? Where are we going from here? First of all, what we exercise is that co-treatment should really be a standard here. This is another project of us in Pontianak, 650K population in 2021. There is a fixed treatment plant pretty far from the population center. So the population center is around here, southern part of the city. This is the fixed treatment plant. The sludging truck usually go 30 kilometers to reach here. This river is 400 meters wide. So, and the master plan and the centralized sewer plan only cover around 35% of the population. So still 65% of the population will be served by FSM, but now the only FSTP is pretty far away. So what we are doing is that we add co-treatment plant over here. So at the very least, the southern part of the city can be served. And then we are also developing some exercise on intermediate transport station to make the transport closer and also cut the cost and distance and the convenience of the operator. That is a model that we developed. And if we see Indonesia, there are a lot of new wastewater treatment plant and sewerage and centralized services being developed right now. So out of this map, the existing one are only Jakarta, but only small amount. The expansion is still ongoing. Bandung, also small amount. Yogyakarta, small amount. Denpasar, Banjarmasin, Balikpapan, and that's it. The older generation of the centralized sewerage. There are some, and Medan, forget. But there are some still in the planning and some in the middle of construction on commissioning, like Batam, Jambi, Palembang, Pekanbaru. I think also Makassar is currently on some phase of construction, and the rest of it is still in planning phase to be bid for construction. So the idea that all this population center of 270 million population will have some kind of centralized system, but no plan for FSM or FSTP. So I think the clean cut to close the gap is just adopt the co-treatment system and then standardize and get into deep on how to do it properly, which is actually not that difficult. There are some studies that go very deep and very precise into how to adopt this safely. And of course, there is some limits and some existing ones that can be used as the living lab, even though there are some issues also on those ones. And the second thing that we can address from the new capital is that emission issues is really hot on the decision maker and the politician side, and they're somehow really pushing on it. So FSM and sanitation should address or jump on it to get some leverage on get projects and works done. But there is a specific challenge on methane, because as we know, the anaerobic process, the sludge digestion, including inside septic tanks, will release methanes. And sooner or later, this will be addressed and audited. And we really need some solution on this. So it is actually an opportunity. You have around 95% of 270 million population that has to be increased to address the methane push. But then the technology is not available yet on the market, and the gap for replacement is very huge. And I think in 5 or 10 years, this will be something that we will address more seriously, and some research should start, if possible, right now to address these issues. And then a lot of issues in Indonesia regarding, especially on this kind of important but not really sexy sector, is that the one who make the decision is not really interested to commit in financing and also policies. And basically what we did is we broke down the relationship of enabling environment in an exercise. And then what we identified as bottlenecks is between the populace and the institution. So low participation rate and then low willingness to pay, and also low commitment on financing and project, the gap in infrastructures. And basically what we need to push is on the regular citizens on how to make the issues an issue, so that the decision makers, the politicians will think that if we don't do something about this, they will lose votes and electability, or if they do it, they will gain new popularity and those kind of issues. It sounds a bit, I would say, dirty tactics, but whatever works, it has to be done. And then on this point specifically, so during few of our projects, we started going deep into public campaign issues. And what we find is that a lot of the material that's said to be public campaign material for the regular citizen doesn't actually resonates well with the audience. I would call it the of the campaign material. So we have 270 million population, Jakarta around 10 million, and well, 2.6K views, and then the national one is 8.3K views. It's you know. But then this year there is the UNICEF launched something that actually resonates really well in some demography, and also got a lot of responses. A lot of my old friends started calling me asking about this, and I think Bu Maraita will present this later. So there is a good thing going on this campaign that will have to be, I think will have to be adopted by everyone else to push the FSM and sanitation issues. And as comparison, this is the national news of the new capital development. So this is close enough to something very segmented and very niche. And I think this should be the standard on how we campaign the FSM and sanitation to the public, to increase the participatory rate, to increase the willingness to pay. A lot of the time, they are not willing to participate and connect because they don't know what we're actually doing. But if we present it in overly engineering, overly sector way, they're not really interested in it. So we have to twist it in how they see it. And then in summary, what FSM in Indonesia would have to address or would have to see in our exercise in the new capital team. First of all is that at the end, we really have to speed up co-treatment adoption. The professionals in the field have to be ready and understand about co-treatment. The regulations should allow some spaces in it, because we discussed, I think 5 years ago, 4 years ago, and it's not regulated and everyone can't do anything from the government. This has to change. And also the academics background and some local data to help adopt the system have to be pushed. I think a lot of cooperation over here with universities. As for the bottlenecks, investment, of course, but the most immediate and I think accessible intervention that can be done is to produce a good PR and campaign. I think one of the best take-home message of what UNICEF has done is that they hire actual PR and campaign experts to let them do their job. Usually what happens is that we prepare a material, but then the one who review it is fellow engineers, government officers who might be used to be engineers. And there is this bias that resonates with them, but if we brought the same material to the street, we interview people, we show the material, it doesn't work at all. And so basically we need to hire the PR guy to do what they do best with our material and our key points. And it should target everyone, I think also including the decision makers and politicians, because a lot of them doesn't know anything about wastewater and sanitation. What they know about sanitation is solid waste, probably. And what they know about river pollution is industries. They don't know anything else. So it should also target the decision makers to give them additional insight without being too nitpicky, and help them make best decisions. And the last is that the huge gap in innovation for the on-site sanitary treatments, the methane issues, the retrofits, the supply chain, and everything. And additionally, in the future, what we see from the new capital is that there will be a lot more communal system instead of individual septic tanks. So the doing this treatment, the aerobic treatment to address methane issues will be a lot easier and viable if we make smaller communal systems like 10 to 500 house connections units, smaller units. That would be more viable for to address the methane issues and then also the logistics. But those systems will still need dislodging and FSM service because there would be no actual sludge handling on those smaller units. So that would be part of where FSM will have a role in the future. And so the conclusion is that did we manage to find a future for FSM? Yes. As I said before, there will be smaller communal STPs that will be aerobic to address the methane, but it still has to be dislodged. And also the area that is yet to be connected to the sewer line will still have to be served. So that's where FSM is. And also the very rural area, of course, would still need some kind of SM in the future. But it will be a very challenging one, and it must be done anyway. And if anything, I think we from Indonesia really need to learn a lot from the world. I saw some really good from the, I think, National Committee on Clean Ganga River in India. They did a really awesome work that we can adopt, not just on the technical aspects, but policy on the intervention strategy, on public communication. There is a lot of things there. A lot of good practices also we see in Malaysia with IWK and SPAN, and a lot of practice from around the world, basically. So I think that conclude what I can present, considering the red tapes of what I cannot really present in this forum. Thank you for everyone. And I think I would have to give it back to Jan. Thanks.
Thank you so much. That was really, you said you couldn't present everything, but this was already a very broad and holistic overview covering many, many aspects, and also kind of like trying to look a bit into the future of what needs to be done. Very exciting. We already did have a few questions for you in the chat, so maybe you can address them right away now. But keeping the time in mind, I think we move right on to the next presentation, hearing now from the company that is providing wastewater treatment and sludge treatment services really across Indonesia, working with national stakeholders, but also local city and regional authorities. Great pleasure to introduce our next two speakers who will present together. Welcome to the session, Kevin, Putra, Tiara, and Hidayat, Sigit, Suryanto. I'm looking forward to learn more about your company, PJL Enviro. I just mentioned you work with so many different stakeholders in different regions. So this will, kind of like complement the picture that Arieza started to draw about FSM and sanitation services in Indonesia. It is noteworthy that Pak Sigit also formerly served for 8 years as a finance director and acting president director of Jakarta's government-owned wastewater company. So he brings another set of additional experience to the discussion. And yes, we're really looking forward to learning from you. I pass it over to you for your presentation.
Okay, thank you, Jan. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Especially thanks to Arieza and Arieza to invite us to the event, the forum. Before Jan has already explained my experience, before I joined with the PGL at Paljaya, the wastewater management enterprise at Jakarta, and joined with the PGL Enviro at the last year in December. I will explain the commission Jakarta is the each year and joined with the Jakarta enterprise wastewater management. to be concerned to Jakarta community FSM. Yes, please with Jennifer come to one of the treatment at the Jakarta treatment at the Listyasari. It's with the technology MBDR, the mechanical. Okay, next.
Sorry to interrupt. Could you maybe like move closer to wherever the microphone is? It is a bit difficult to understand you. Maybe you have to switch seats.
Okay. I will explain a fact point of view important to be concerned at the FSM Jakarta. Is the challenging Jakarta or the big city in Indonesia. With experience at Jakarta, is the start is number one is the containment. Containment is important because the general at the big city and national Indonesia is containment still from the raw material is the civil. Is the looking at the condition is the big city in Jakarta or the big city in Indonesia is cannot pay the civil material have the from the LPDP or the fiber because like the Jakarta is the population is the chronic the population is 12 million with the city area of about 600 kilometers. Okay, the condition Jakarta have the program revitalization containment from the civil material to vacuum material like the fiber with the target 36,000. But the condition I'm looking only 2,500. With the challenging, the replace containment from the civil structure to fiber or the LPDP. One, space is not available. It's not the easy installment. The tank septic at the slum area is the real condition. Number two, the character waste the slum area people is still not good. Sometimes it's solid waste going to the tank septic. Number three, the road is small, it's not support. The truck is charging going to the housing. And number four is willing to pay is not good. And sometimes the area, it's a slum area, its condition is flat area or the illegal land. Is the problem replace containment program at the big city, for example, at the Jakarta. Okay. Many programs target at poor and the slum community in urban area, especially in populate the real waste maker or just impacted people. Yes, is the problem. Revitalization. Sorry, this is. Yeah. Yes, it's my question. When the start for doing staging to the number one is the revitalization. Thank you, said. Start from the slum area or the middle up group. Is the real condition. The slum area is not polluted. The slum area is impact. It's the last impact. Like the river. The river is polluted. It's the impact from the produce waste is not at the river. So the slum area is cannot be start to be changed the revitalization condition. Okay. The program at the revitalization tank septic program Islam area we target 30,000 cannot do it. Our perspective, if the recover the wastewater polluted from the source polluted, start from the middle group, because the uptake easy, use clean water, but the slum area cannot, is the difficult receive clean water. At the middle up group is the take easy clean water and make produce waste. There is produce waste. Middle up group is the willing to pay is good. Like the real condition, the people still not understand where is the manage the gray wastewater, something like that. There are still managed directly going to drainage. It's the rule before going to drainage must be managed by treatment or pump, something like that. Isn't the people not understand regarding that? So I think is starting from the slum area is not right. Overly as perspective, starting from the middle up, because yeah, the cost incurred by the government are primarily the health of the environment, not the rich or the poor. Goal is the environment. Okay. That's looking for the new perspective willing to pay. Low income, not the only polluter. Effect of low income, like a clean water access, pay more for clean water compared to mid high level, and the fact mid level to the top level income society. As a before maybe. Okay. The dislodging. Dislodging SOP is important. Jakarta have to make SOP dislodging, but Jakarta at the Paljaya enterprise is only contribute 10% of the 300 truck at the Jakarta dislodging. So 90 private truck dislodging is under control. So the regulation to make rule for the SOP, because 2 years ago accident at the private truck service. Okay, dislodging. Transport is also the big problem in Jakarta with the traffic jam. We worry with the private truck is really going to the treatment plant or not after dislodging at the customer. So suggest that the transport is all very like the GPS control, something like that. Okay, and number 4, treatment and recycle reuse. Maybe my partner, Pak Kevin, please explain regarding the treatment and recycle and reuse with the experience DGL built at the Indonesia. Please, Pak Kevin.
Okay, thank you, Pak Sigit. So I want to recap a bit about what, hopefully you can hear me clearly, but I want to recap a bit basically on what we're trying to say in general here. We believe, and this is what I think why we have this forum and the discussion, is that we also want to know what is the perspective of international stakeholder and player of how, you know, sludge and wastewater is treated basically in Indonesia. I think if you saw the previous presentation in KN, in the new capital city, basically we are trying to use more modern technology and process to ensure that there are different way and new way to treat the sludge in Indonesia. And I don't know whether it's true or not, but a lot of the times the perspective of sludge management in Indonesia, what Pak Sigit mentioned, is still a bit behind or conventional or or old-fashioned basically. Although here I want to raise the case that a lot of time in Indonesia nowadays that's not the case, because nowadays there are modern sludge management where we are trying to now use better technology, better process equipment, and also I think it was mentioned earlier in the presentation, a lot of the time the sludge management are now combined together with the wastewater management. And later on I will show you and I will present some examples that had been going or is currently going in Indonesia, but in general, basically, we are trying to shift. Basically, a lot of people think that the bigger, as Pak Sigit mentioned, the biggest pollutant or the biggest contributor to sludge and to wastewater and pollution in Indonesia was thought to be the lower and middle class population. But as Pak Sigit mentioned, actually, if you really dig into it, actually the biggest polluter are actually the middle upper class income, especially those commercial area, for example, in Jabar, because those are the ones that had access to the raw material in the first place. So here we want to communicate a bit what has been going in Indonesia in the last probably 6-7 years, where there is a shift towards conventional sludge drying bed and conventional sludge management system to a more advanced system. There are some reasons why I think the country is doing it. One of them is probably has things to do with the operation itself. I think there was a question about the operation and maintenance of some of these facilities. Has to do with also the life cycle costs in general, and also the benefit of having a automated or a mechanical process itself, basically. So here I will talk about 3 different examples that we do or we are doing in Indonesia. And although Jan said we primarily work in wastewater, but we also work on the sludge treatment. And since today we're going to talk more about the sludge management, so I'll going to present more about the sludge management. So the first one that I want to talk briefly about is the Batam City Sewage Treatment Plant. I think here is one of the examples where the sludge management will be together with the wastewater management, and they are building for almost the entire city of Batam, and the capacity for the wastewater is about 20,000 meter cubic per day. And one of the innovation or one of the things they're doing in Batam differently is that all the excess solid that or the sludge that they have from this facility is going to be used for composting, basically. So yeah, as fertilizer, because the entire concept of the plant is to ensure there are zero waste or to minimize the waste coming out of the entire plant, basically. And the second example that it was also shown on the map by in the previous presentation is Pekanbaru. Here, basically, in Pekanbaru, they are also doing similar concept where they are combining the sludge management system with the wastewater treatment system, in where I think later on the plant itself would be for about 200,000 people, currently for 8,000 meter cubic per day. And here later I can show you the example where the treatment plant itself will use sludge mechanical equipment such as sludge thickening and sludge dewatering, basically to reduce the operational cost and to reduce the land uses and also to simplify the process. So if you can see this render picture of the site, basically, because now it's currently still under construction. The truck here on the left actually represents the sludge truck, sludging tank, basically. So the plan was all these sludge treatment vehicle would go into the plant, and they would empty their truck, and the sludge would go into the system, and from the system itself, it would be connected to the sludge that is treated from the wastewater treatment, and inside they would have a mechanical facility here, including the sludge storage tank, a polymer system, and sludge dewatering and thickening unit. So obviously, I can talk a lot about the sludge handling process, but I know there are time limitations, so basically the entire purpose is obviously how can we reduce the weight and volume of the sludge, because as you know, throwing away the sludge to PPLI in Indonesia or to the government back would cost a lot of money. So this is where the equipments are hand-used. And the last reference to give you a better idea of what's happening around Indonesia also, there is a project that we're also doing in Cibinong, in Bogor, in West Java, basically. We are revitalizing a current conventional sludge treatment plant where all these trucks from Bogor usually comes, and as you can see, the current condition usually sludge rain bed and
udah Mbak Lia, udah beres udah
and currently basically the condition is they say they are able to treat up to 70 meter cubic of sludge per day, but in reality actually it's like more or less, because a lot of things are not running well, and we are now basically in process to modernize the sludge management system by bringing in pretreatment and then some sort of media and also mechanical equipment and also polymer unit. So because the main purpose is we are trying to improve the number of trucks or the number of capacity that can be treated in this treatment, and to ensure that the operational management and maintenance is not too difficult, because everything would be semi-automatic. So if we continue with this plan and the plan is succeed, we can improve the capacity for the sludge management to up to 200 meter cubic, or about, I think, 30 trucks per day, which is for West Java, Bogor area is actually quite a lot, basically. So these are just some of the reference that and some of the things that I want to share about the awareness of how in Indonesia we are already trying to improve, not just in Jakarta, basically not just for the capital city, but some of these other small cities are actually already trying to improve their sludge and waste management for a better environment and better sanitation, basically. Yeah, that's more or less that what we are trying to present. Sometimes, a lot of the times, probably next time if we have a time to communicate, we can explain further into details about why they do it, such as to reduce the operational costs and to reduce the land use. But these are just general perspective and general things that we can present to you of what's happening. Thank you.
Very, very nice. That was fascinating. Some great examples in there of treatment and reuse technologies, and your thoughts about transport and overall service delivery. That was really great to hear. To the audience, if you have any questions for Kevin or Sigit, please feel free to put them into the chat, and the two of them can answer them there, or we may also keep some for the Q&A session afterwards. But now we have actually two more presentations to go, so I don't want to lose more time. And I'm going to pass it over to Maraita from UNICEF Indonesia, telling us a bit more about their various activities in the field of sanitation in Indonesia. Maraita, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jan. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Maraita, a WASP specialist coming from UNICEF Indonesia. Please allow me to share my screen. I hope you can see this.
It looks good.
Yeah. Let me start with a little bit context of Indonesia, which I believe this is already mentioned in more detail with the first presenter, Arieza. Just wanted to share with you that Indonesia is still trying to achieving the targets as mentioned in the medium development planning year 2020-2024, not only for the improved sanitation but also in safely managed sanitation. So far this is the situations based on the data coming from the National Statistics Bureau. to support the government of Indonesia in achieving the target, particularly on safely managed sanitations, UNICEF Indonesia is trying to help the governments still how to move from the ODF to safely managed sanitation, because as you may aware that some part of Indonesia still challenged with the open defecation issue. So then what we are doing is on how to support the governments in moving towards from ODF into safely managed sanitation. So this is something that we are working on starting several years back. And one of the activities that we conducted is on the by having this market assessment, which has been shared during the last FSM event, to provide some evidence on several things. And then also from this assessment, we can also have a potential market size, which I believe it is something that can help on how to accelerate the safely managed sanitation's achievement in Indonesia. So it's not only coming from the government program, but how also we can try to improve the market that could help, and then maybe it can be also just like a game changer for the sector in how to accelerate the progress. So from the market assessment, we found several things. One is the potential market size, which we calculated it's quite big, so meaning that the potential is there. But then we also find that despite of the potential, we also find several challenges that is still ahead in many aspect, in the demand, in the supply, in the enabling environment. So this is something that we are trying to see and then provide some recommended solutions, particularly on the demand, on the resources and the capacities. So the recommendation is also quite specific for the government, for the business, private sectors, and also for the finance institutions, as there are a lot of regarding the finance resources. This is something that we also trying to work with. And then the assessment also proposed some business development along the sanitation service chain. We hope that this is something that can help the business also to see how the business can be developed, and then help the communities in getting the access. And at the same time, it's also providing a value for their business themselves. And then the last one, the assessment also provides some ideas on innovations, for both product and services that we can also, and also some like a potential for the business on how they can move forward. And hopefully this is something that can provide some information also for the business on this. Move on from what we have so far from the assessment. We thought that maybe this is how we can implement the recommendation that is provided into the from the market assessment. One of the area that we are working with is related to the demand. We found that the demands actually the demand on safely managed sanitation is quite low, related with the perceptions, wrong perception coming from the communities. We found that the community understand that the toilet need to be connected with something, with the containment, but not necessarily the right one, the standardized one. So this is something that we think that this is we need to help. Okay, so with that we are develop safely managed sanitations campaign, which we think that this should be something that out of the box. This is something that attract people's attention on what it is. But at the same time, it can also help them in after they triggered. The campaign can also lead them or provide them on some information on how to do it, because we thought that this is not fair if in the campaign we say something about hey, this is good and this is not good, this is give you some impact, but we are not giving the solution. So then the campaign itself, it divided into several stages. The first one is more on the triggering part through the humor and satire kind of campaign to open the eyes. And then the second stage is to direct the audiences into the informations through the platform. We call it as the check.org, which in the website, the audience can find a lot of informations on why this is important, what is the impact of having the poor sanitations, how if you wanna install the how if you wanna to improve your sanitations, how to what is the safely managed sanitation, how to seal if you want to have a seal septic tank, to where which producer that you need to contact with, or even if you want to dislodge, where you can get the information. So in the checkit.org, it provides a lot of information around that area. So which we believe this is something that really could provide a benefiting the audiences. And then so far we found that the response is quite good. And as mentioned by Arieza in his first presentation, thank you so much for the acknowledgement. But yes, we found that the response from the audience is quite good. The campaign triggered a lot of conversations, particularly in the social medias, about what is really septic tank, how if you want to develop a good septic tanks kind of thing. This is totally what we are aiming for. And then if I may, I can share with you 1 minute video to give you the idea on what we are providing. Yeah.
Indonesia sedang terancam.
Coba rewind. Stop. Kita harus siap-siap.
Sorry.
Guys, ternyata dia
Sorry, let me start it over.
Sedang terancam.
Coba rewind. Stop. Kita harus siap-siap.
Guys, ternyata dia mengincar kita semua, dan terutama anak-anak.
Kalian harus lihat ini. Dia nggak cuma muncul dari air, tapi juga lantai yang kita injak.
Jadi, dia sebenarnya ada akibat perbuatan kita. Jadi septic tank yang nggak pernah dicek dan disedot. Harus bergerak sekarang. Nggak apa-apa. Sampai kapan? Sampai keluarga lu kena. Sampai semuanya mati.
Masih ada harapan untuk kita menyelamatkan Indonesia. Jadi dihantui tadi. Cek caranya di checkit.org.
Okay. Yeah, so that is the videos, and then actually we have a lot of different versions, so we can put it in the different channel. So because the idea is to put this in different media, so people can get more and more what you call it, kind of triggering. And then in addition to that, we also, because we think that the campaign should not be only in one time, so we are trying to make a quite continuous effort in providing this awareness. So then we are trying to utilize we are trying to have a quite sustainable campaign. One of them is through commemorating some of the days. One of them is on the World Toilet Day. So we are again providing some contents in the social medias for different categories, ages. So we can try to pick different target audiences. We also trying to reach out them through different channel, through TikTok, which is now also quite hyped, which is we believe that this is something that also quite good approaches. And then on the ground itself, we work together with the association of service providers, and then also with a lot of central governments and also local governments to provide a simultaneous dislodging in several cities that can reach hundreds numbers of houses that can be dislodged during the commemoration day. Related with the financing, we think that this is also something, one of the main challenges that we found that challenging the safely managed sanitation, for particularly in Indonesia. We found that we always mention about the sustainable services for sanitations, but that cannot be happen if we cannot have a sustainable financing sources. And then from different various financing sources, we found that the financing sources coming from domestic, meaning coming from the customers of the communities, is the most sustainable one. So with that, we are trying to help cities in Indonesia on how to mobilize their domestic resource mobilizations, so they can apply this to any type of system, either the FSM on-site and FSM, or even the sewerage system. So the idea is because we use this as a basis that everyone is the polluters, so everyone should pay for what they are doing. So as we are implementing the polluters pays principle, with that we have this kind of scheme that every household, non-household, need to be responsible for the wastewater that they produce through the payment that they need to pay. While this payment will bring sufficient sources for the local governments in preparing providing the services, in developing the infrastructures. So this is something that we are helping the local governments, particularly in Bekasi. We found that we tried to identify some options that we can apply, and then we found that the property tax, it can be inserted the sanitation as part of the property tax, and then it will be applied for the household and the non-household, and then we hope that this can help to support the upgrading system or the construction of the septic tanks in the houses, particularly on the poor household. While on the transportation, on the FSM itself, and also the sewerage system, we design that this is something that can be also covered through the wastewater tariff. So this is something that we are working with the local governments. And then now we are also in an agreement with the local bank, who will help the city authority to collect the money for the tariff, which this is something that we are they see that this is maybe a good examples also for other cities as well. And then some other lesson that we also got coming from this initiative is how is the formal regulation coming from the local governments is really needed, meaning that a lot of discussions, advocacy to the decision maker, including also in the parliament, is really needed to make this happen. And then related with the capacity. So this is something that we also link it with the current situations. Hopefully this is something that quite better now in Indonesia on how to make sure that we can, the local government or local service provider can provide a sustainable services, including during the COVID-19 pandemic. On that, we conducted a rapid assessment through the more than 50 persons or institutions from different cities to check to see whether how is their businesses during the pandemic, whether there are some disruptions, if yes, then what kind of them, and then what are some support that they are needed coming from outside the service providers, particularly coming from the government, local government, or central government, or any other stakeholders. So from the rapid assessment, we found that most of them are located in the, particularly on the for the dislodgers companies. They found that the more than 50% confirmed that their locations, their business area are categorized as a red zone, meaning that at the time it is difficult for them to enter the location, meaning that they cannot conduct the services, or even if they want to reach not only the location that the houses that they want to dislodge, but also the route that they need to go for the dislodging, they might go to the red zone, which then difficult for them to reach the houses that they want to dislodge. And then in addition to that, there are also some other disruption that the respondent also feel during the COVID-19, particularly not only related to the access, but also on the demand, particularly demand on the dislodging. It's quite reduced significantly. And then also the budget availability for operation and maintenance also quite lower, because as for your information, that most of the local operator in Indonesia is as part of the government body, and then during the COVID pandemic at the time, a lot of government allocation were reallocated for COVID responses. So that is why some the budget that allocated for operation and maintenance is reduced. And then from the rapid assessment itself, there are some aspiration coming from this local operator, said that, oh, we need some guidance coming from guidance to help them on how to make sure that the sanitation can be sustainably provided. With that, so we developed the guidebook, which consisted of at least 4 sections. One is to emphasize the message that the service should be continuously provided. This is really important because they think, I mean, local service provider think that the book is not only for them to provide some steps on how they can do it. I mean, how they can, some steps that they can take to provide a sustainable services, but also the book can also a material, just like an advocacy material for the local governments to open the eyes of the local government that this is something that the services should be provided, because this is also something is really important, basic needs, and also can help to keep the immune of the community to avoid the transmissions of the any diseases, including the COVID. So this is something that the message is emphasized in the guidebook. And then we also providing some what you call it, and provide some understanding that the risk of transmissions of the COVID is also there, particularly coming from the sledging services, because from the household to the staff, the employee on conducting the services, or coming from the service provider to the communities, or among the staff within the operator itself. So that is why in the book we're providing some guidance on what kind of risk, what are the potential transmission that can happen, and then how to avoid that. So this is something that also in the book. And then we also provide some understanding in the book that the COVID-19, maybe, yes, it gave a lot of challenges, but at the same time, it also providing some opportunities, particularly on innovating. For example, on innovations on how to, this is a time that securing health and safety, particularly for the employee and also of course the customer, is something that really important, because now seems like the customer, the health and safety, it's just like a cost, not as something that is really see that this is important. So this is the right time to convince that this health and safety is really should be a priority for service providers and also the local governments. And then the demand is, it should be more, what you call it, raising the demand should be more intense, because we have the good message on how to link it with the disease, sanitation, wash, and then the diseases, the COVID particularly. So this is something that maybe we can also providing some clear message on how to keep up the demand on particularly on the sledging, and then maybe again another thinking about on how to raise the demand itself, on innovation on how to raise the demand itself. This is really important. And then the last one is on innovation on the strengthening and the operation and management itself, just like how we need to revisit the plan, how to make sure that this cash flow is really secure. This is something that just like a reminder of the service provider. And then the last one is related with the how the service provider can also providing some support to the surrounding environment in these difficult situations. This is related with the innovation. So again, the market assessment also providing give us a little bit not only potential, but not pressure, but seems like innovation is really needed, because if we are doing with the business as usual, Indonesia cannot achieve these ambitious targets, particularly on the SDG 6 later 2030. So then innovation is a must. And then we understand that the innovation is really there are a lot of innovations, but we found that the innovation, it's not the utilization of the innovation itself, it's very much limited. So that is why we are trying to develop a platform, multi-stakeholder platform, that can help the innovators, or we can call it as an entrepreneur, to help them in how to make sure that the innovation can be marketable, yet following the standard, but then they can help, so they can help survive in the market, but at the same time it can also help the community to get the right product and services that fit with their condition, fit with this financing condition, with their demand, and so on and so forth. So this is something that we are working with Ministry of Public Works, the National Research Agency, and the universities to develop this hub, which we call as incubates. So during the incubates now, so far, we received a lot of proposals from the innovators. So the idea is the innovator give give the proposals on how to solve the challenge that we informed earlier. And then the proposal that selected will receive the mentor and coaching in very intense to help them in shaping up their product, their prototype, and then later and we link them with the additional sources to help them in scale up their product. And then the last one, this is related with the climate. So this is we found that climate change now in Indonesia is we feel the impact of the climate change more and more, and then this is also linked or impacting the sanitations. But unfortunately the evidence on that is really limited. So then we started with generating another evidence on this.
Could you wrap up, please? Because we have only a couple of minutes left and we have one more speaker. So I'm terribly sorry to cut you off, but could you come to an end, please?
Yes, this is my two last slides. Yeah, so I'm sorry for that, Jen. Yeah, so this is we try to generate the evidence on how the climate hazard provide the risk to reduce or reverse the progress on the ODF, and then access to sanitation, which then also impacting to the achievement of the government later. But then it also we found that this is also not only a climate change impact to the disruptions of the facilities and performance of the facilities, and but also furthermore in the health communities' health, because it somehow it impact to the communities. So with that, we are now preparing. This is still ongoing. We developed the framework to help the local governments in understanding the climate resilience, so they can understand what is the climate resilient, what should I do to develop a climate resilient system, what cost that we need to pay for this, so on and so forth. So this is something that we are now still working with the Ministry of Environment and also Public Works. So then this is something that we can adopt, and then finally we can mainstream in different format, in the regulation, in the guidelines, in the roadmap, in the policies, not only on the words sector, but also mainstreaming in the climate change itself. I think that's my last slide. Sorry for taking a lot of time.
No problem. It was great. I loved the video, and then you covered a lot of ground, like covering so many different aspects: climate change, COVID response, sanitation, worker health. There were a couple of questions for you in the chat, so you can continue the conversation there. We have one more speaker, but technically only 4 more minutes, so I think we will have to go a bit over the time we had allotted. I don't think we will have time for a proper Q&A session afterwards. So we have seen 3 presentations now. If you have any questions to any of the previous speakers, please write your questions in the chat now, because we will hear one more presentation from Nyoman from UNICEF, from SNV now. But I think afterwards we pretty much have to close right after the presentation. So please continue asking questions in the chat now, continue the conversation there. And Nyoman, the floor is yours now.
Thank you, Jan. Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. There's some background noise, but I think it could be all right.
Okay, good. Yeah, of course, I'm I'm outside of the office because just done the other meeting. But thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Nyoman Suartana. I'm urban sanitation specialist of SNP Indonesia, and I'm also city coordinator for Bandar Lampung and Metro. For this presentation, I would like to share our update and also lesson learned from Metro City, one of our city intervention in WAS SDGs program. Yes, thank you. Before we start, okay. Before we start, I would like to say that's one of our city. Metro is a small city. Is only 68 kilometers square and inhabited by 165,000 people. It's very small city for the. And here is the background why we are going to metro based on our baseline where people have a lot high containment ownership but low in standardization and also like maintenance of for communal hospital and low participation of community to do regular badging, and they do it only when it's a problem occur. And in terms of sanitation services, in Metro City, the domestic wastewater management is under UPTD, is a special unit to manage the wastewater, but it's not optimum in implementation. Lack human resources and capacity. And also SOP does not exist. There is an SOP, but it's not writing, so it's very challenging when and it's always change in the implementation, and lack engagement with the private employer for the charging services. Even in Metro, there is no specific private employer. It's most coming from the capital city of Lampung province, but it's very low in engagement with private employer, and also deslodging services is remain on call basis. Sorry, and also slot volume exposed to IPLT is low. Instead, the capacity of IPLT in Metro City, the capacity of IPLT is around 45 cubic meter a day, but the truck coming to IPLT is only one a day. Sometimes it's not like that. It's very low. So, and there is no dedicated personnel to implement the operational and maintenance of the IPLT and also refer to SOP. Here is our approach. Our approach is not only talking about the infrastructure, but how we can address the whole sanitation chain, the whole sanitation system to accelerate safe managed sanitation in Metro City. So we have 5 components in the approach. We are starting with demand creation and community awareness. Second is we are encouraging safely and affordable services, and of course good governance in sanitation, financing and investment, and also treatment, safe disposal, and reuse. In this approach, we encourage the main aspect about determine the priorities. It's a good now for Metro. They already put sanitation target and also safely managed sanitation target in their midterm development planning. So this is good for us to encouraging for budgeting, for strengthening policy, and also strengthening capacity of the operator and related agency that's engaged with sanitation. Here is what is work in our program. What we already done is we started with the BCC component, because we know that if we would like to encourage the local government for strengthening the quality of picker slab management as well as domestic wastewater management, we need to ensure that the community aware and also the local government aware that's volume of deslodging and also the behavior chain of the community need to be improved and understand about the importance of the deslodging. That's why this is good that the local government start to determine the target. It's not only for safely managed sanitation, but also sustainable STBM is like community-led total sanitation. We already did socialization for desludging in 22 cities villages. For operator and also for the institution, we started with a twinning program in cooperation with Porkalim to strengthening the capacity of UPTD. The Porkalim is a wastewater forum at national level, and also we are developing a standard operational procedure for operational and maintenance, and also the sludging services is already developed and also tested that give more insight to operator to start it, and also facilitating in moving the responsibility of domestic wastewater management from environment office to public work, because in Indonesia now the responsible for wastewater is under public work based on the regulation released by Ministry of Home Affairs. So we encouraging the institution who now under implemental office to move to public work. So this is more about the future improvement because many of the investment is also coming from the national government, especially through Ministry of Public Work. And this is one of the regulation and policy we encouraging in Metro City and working well is about the circular letter from mayor to government officer for desludging, because we want the government officer can be a role model for the community to start to do desludging and ensure there is no sludge in their houses and bring to IPLT or fecal sludge treatment plant. And also there is a regulation actually in Metro is already developed since 2017. So we are started socialization to each level of the government and to ensure they understand why we need to desludge and also why sanitation is important. Yeah, like what I said in the previous slide, that's there is a lot of containment, but it's very low standard and mostly bottomless. So we are starting to teach mason and also the local government for septic tank construction. That's refer to standard national standard. So in Metro now there is around 10 or until 12 mason with a certificate who already understand how to build standardized septic tank. And here is some of our achievement here, and the good one we saw here that the fecal sludge disposal to IPLT per year is always increased. This is good because in Metro the budget is very low. It's coming from the local government through the increasing of the sludge disposed to IPLT is good for us to do advocacy to the local government for improve the quality of fecal sludge management in Metro. Here is one of the innovation do by the Metro City government. We call it Arisan Sedotinya. Is like a social collecting every month for Sedotinya. It first time is initiated by Bapeda Planning Agency to support and also role model for acceleration safely managed sanitation. But recently, massive movement is coming from the PKK, the women organization under the wife of mayor, and this is been running in 22 villages in Metro. So in the whole city of Metro, now they already know about Arisan Sedotinya and collective that and every day at least 1 or 2 member is deslat and the slat bring to IPLT. The challenge, and it's not done yet, but I think this is very important. What I put here is the important one for Metro is a moving responsibility for domestic wastewater management from environment office to public work office because for the future investment and also for the capacity building, because everything is underlined of Ministry of Public Work. And also allocation budget for domestic wastewater management, notably operational and maintenance of IPLT and its service. Now through Arisan.Tinja, it's rising. It's also good for us to advocacy. And the good thing in this year, the local government allocated around 150 million for operational and maintenance of the IPLT, including for the small services of the infrastructure of the IPLT to ensure proper treatment for the sludge. And also we are trying for engagement of MFI and other alternative financing for sanitation, because we know that's the ownership of the standardized tank is remain low. So how we can encourage the microfinance institution and other alternative financing can support for upgrading or build new speed tank for new house and so on. Here is the last slide. What lesson learned we can learn here is the commitment and support of the from the city leader is very high in Metro. We had a lot of innovation, including the last one is about the STBM sustainable STBM program to achieve 5 pillars of STBM, and also we advocacy to all stakeholders to mainstreaming safely managed sanitation. They did quite well because every dinas is already informed about FSM, also regular desludging program, and also through evidence-based advocacy, through the RCT, through BCC program and so on, that also increased pickle flood and also pickle flood management, and also increase awareness of operational and maintenance of the sanitation infrastructure. That's it for me. Thank you for your opportunity.
Thank you so much, Nyoman. That was a great additional example. There was actually one question for you in the chat from Nicholas, thanking you for the interesting presentation. And he wanted to know, is there a national standard for septic tanks? And how is it enforced and checked, and by whom? Is that something that you could quickly address?
Yes. You can check. We can check from the website, or you can check from the website of the Ministry of Public Work. There is a national standard for the speed tank. I think it's released in 2017. So you can check, and there is some option of the type of the speed tank, and also with each component can be combined, as well as the how big the speed tank based on the how many people live in that house.
Okay, and is this standard somehow enforced, or someone controlling whether it's applied?
That is a good question, Jan. We are also trying to do that. That's why we are starting to socialize this national standard. Yeah, because yeah, it is common that we develop it, but we are not socializing.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, Nyoman. And I'm sorry you had to go last. I know it's always tough to be the last one presenting. So thank you for a great job and for your presentation. I'm mindful of the time, and I think there was a good discussion going on in the chat already, a lot of information exchanged there and a lot of questions asked and answered. So I'm just gonna wrap us up today. I wanna thank you all, especially thank you to our wonderful speakers today. Arieza, who started by telling us about the new capital and Indonesia's holistic sanitation vision for the future. Thank you for this presentation, very great to hear. And then also thank you for entertaining the chat. I've seen that you've been like super active, also commenting on all the other presentations. Really thank you for being so lively and active in the chat, great job. I also want to thank Kevin and Pak Sigit for providing us some great examples from across Indonesia about new treatment technologies and some concrete ideas for innovations and service delivery. I think this kind of innovative thinking and innovative also technical solutions is really what is much needed to achieve Indonesia's sanitation goals. Thank you for being with us and presenting today. Maraita, also thank you for sharing UNICEF's activities in the field. The video was great to see, but obviously there was so much more that you were presenting towards, working towards behavior and attitude change in the population, which is a crucial building block in improving sanitation across the country. But then also you covered sanitation worker health, COVID response, climate change. There was really a lot in your presentation. So thank you also for being with us today. And Nyoman, thank you for sharing the wonderful examples from Metro City with us. Also great to see this kind of like concentrated case study on one city, on what is happening there on so many different levels. Also, big thank you to everyone who joined us today for being active in the chat and asking your questions. I think we covered many different aspects today, so I'm sure there were some takeaways today for everyone. Thank you for being with us today. What's up next? We do have a session confirmed for mid-May on a case study in the municipality of Polokwane in South Africa. Which will focus on service provision in resource-constrained contexts. And we will be posting more details about that next week. So thank you all again. Thank you to our wonderful speakers and to all attendees for your time and input today. And we hope to see you at the next FSMA Spotlights session. So I hope to see you all soon and wishing you all a great rest of the day. Bye-bye.